In this video, I will explain why it is not always sensible to diagnose a symptom. We take dizziness as an example. Dizziness is something that everyone has experienced at some point. Either it spun too fast in circles or drank too much of something. However, there are also many patients who suffer from long-term dizziness or even a kind of chronic dizziness. And very often, no organic cause can actually be found in patients with dizziness. One typical organic cause, for example, is Meniere's disease, a middle ear disorder that can also cause these symptoms of dizziness. This is typically a so-called vertigo that occurs in that location. What most individuals experience, therefore, primarily reduced a bit of security senses, is a sensation of dizziness. There are different ways to learn how to deal with it afterwards. For example, there is a very nice exercise where you consciously do something against a swaying dizziness direction, which sounds paradoxical at first, but can be done by trying to focus on generating your own dizziness that is located in the other axis. So, if I encounter the issue, I experience the sensation that I consistently sway from left to right, then I can make an effort to move from the back to the front and back again. The dizziness caused by the brain can be relatively quickly overlaid by a different focus of our brain. Our brain can't make two dizziness at the same time. At least this way you can temporarily relieve yourself. But the more important question, of course, is where does the deception come from? And in my approach, I always try to show people ways. If we have concerns, then we can also extrapolate or create corresponding goals based on these patterns of concern, come up with something. What should happen instead? At times it's tough due to physical problems. Facing questions like how it feels without dizziness can be challenging. How does it feel without a stomach, without a headache? Because our brain cannot not process information. Crucial not to say, wow, I'd like less dizziness. This is as unhelpful as me telling you have a safe trip home, hopefully no traffic. Since you don't see a free road either, but rather so many red tail lights. The old principle, don't think about a pink elephant now. With dizziness, of course, the challenge is relatively large when you first inform the client. We have a concern, particularly concerns regarding dizziness. We require a definition of our goal. What should happen instead of the fraud in the future? But now it is the case that we are currently experiencing difficulties with this transition from the world of thought to the somatic, that is, to our bodily functions and processes, that sometimes we cannot really access these emotions, these feelings with our thoughts. And of course I can still try vehemently now. I said at the beginning that it might not be so good to follow this first symptom. I can now, of course, attempt to address this issue of dizziness in numerous different ways. Dizziness originating from an endogenous process, meaning it arises from within the patient's own body, without any identifiable organic cause, frequently has an underlying connection to a hidden panic disorder. That signifies we possess a panic disorder in an individual, which, nevertheless, exhibits itself externally nearly exclusively through the occurrence of dizziness. A panic disorder has many other possible symptoms, also has many different causes. Most of them are absolutely harmless. But such a panic disorder typically goes hand in hand with one's heart pounding up to the chin. A so-called palpitation. I have internal restlessness, cold sweats, partially up to chest pain, which even radiates on one side. So people often interpret it as a heart attack. And with this dizziness symptomatology in the context of a panic disorder, our head kind of goes. For some, it is a precursor and then other symptoms break out later. For other individuals, it is more like they have classical symptoms of panic for a period of time. The whole thing gets a bit washed out. The heartache box runs out again. People have dizziness, and when it's gone, maybe this old heart flutter story comes back. And if we now approach this panic disorder with dizziness, then we quickly come to the point that our body, our head with a panic disorder, with a depression, very often also with an anxiety disorder, not necessarily a specific phobia, but with an anxiety disorder, our head actually always wants to tell us, so it doesn't tell us, please do exactly that. Our body goes and says, please cease doing this. A panic disorder should not tell you to alter your life exactly in that manner or fashion. A panic disorder tells you, please don't continue like before. And now we apply this idea to a scam. Dizziness is a panic attack-like phenomenon, restricted to dizziness, and is related to the condition of our head. Please cease current approach. Essentially, each depression, panic disorder, and anxiety disorder originates in this manner. Upon closer examination, one can discern its evolutionary biological derivation. How do we interpret depressive disorders, panic disorders today, that our body actually just wants to protect us? He gives us the symptoms to say, be careful here, don't continue like before. And that's why I would naturally delve deeper with such a client and consider, are there perhaps conflicts, problem patterns, things that are hidden somewhere in the depths that the person affected no longer perceives in that sense? So you can maybe imagine it a little bit like this. That makes sense, of course, if you choose the pen a little smaller and also start a recording. Very good. You can imagine it to some extent like this. In everyday life, there is negative thinking that is dramatically influenced, which can be observed in almost every person's thought process. These are, I would say, these small red dots in everyday life. Many individuals interpret this manifestation of negative thoughts as an indication of an unspecified mental disorder that is not specifically identified or diagnosed. But now it is so that our mind is not made for positive thinking. Our head likes to think dramatically. In the countermodus, when we consider what could happen in one situation or another, our head tends to focus on the negative, imagining how things could go wrong. And this negative thinking is actually not the issue. Over time, if we don't address these numerous small construction sites at all, life continues in some way, but life does not continue for us. Our body chronifies over time that there's no solution for me, that I can't make any progress in my life, can't achieve the goals that I might like to achieve. And over time, maybe something like that builds up, where we then say, well, that is now representative of a depression, that is representative of a panic disorder. So, what do we have to do? We should initially concentrate on the things in my everyday life that can actually be found, where I observe and take note of any instances where something is incorrect or amiss. Problems always arise because we do things we should stop doing and things we still don't do. What we should do. And in our daily lives, our mind actually provides us with a clear signal on every single occasion. Hey, we do not want that. Be it now the question, what happens if I fail in the next profession? Should I reproduce and begin a family? What if I relocate and discover that the apartment isn't suitable after all? If I don't find answers to all these questions, then all these construction sites will remain as they are. And then it's actually not surprising that something like a symptom of psychogenic dizziness, as it is called afterwards, can also arise in us humans. And that is the crucial reason why we should not treat dizziness in a large number of patients, but instead thoroughly investigate the underlying cause of dizziness. What can we do here? Now we go there and say, aha, anyone negative should think positive. That means, let's put a little green dot behind it. From the core idea, this actually makes sense. However, we are aware from psychological research that negative thoughts have a stronger impact compared to positive thoughts. This means that one often speaks of ratios of 5:1, 10:1. Review the video again, this way you can address concerns. I'll explain that again in more detail. And for us, negative things are simply 5 to 10 times stronger emotionally and also mentally present. And if we now go there and have a fear and counter it with a positive thought, while the question still remains, what is actually positive thinking, then it cannot compete on a quantitative level. That does not bring us anything. And not only at this moment do problems come into our lives, which may have this level of quality and relevance right now in the present circumstances and conditions we are currently facing. The Q on the top left stands for quality, but there are colleagues who can really give us a run for our money. What can we do in such situations? We are going now, and on the one hand, take advantage of the fact that we are allowed to set a stronger stimulus in the positive. So either we approach it more quantitatively. However, why not also consider addressing it simultaneously in terms of quality? That means there are fears coming in. What if I never find the right woman? Yes, I would like to find this woman, and she may do it professionally, and we may build this future together. What if I stay employed for my whole life, though I should stay self-employed? Hey, how can I prepare for self-employment from the employee context, maybe now after a corona situation, to deal more with self-employment? Which car would I like to deduct from taxes later as a self-employed person? Etc. pp. That means we are allowed to enter here into a qualitative and also quantitative imbalance, think more positively, think goal-oriented, think qualitatively stronger in terms of impact positively. Certainly this rapidly results in the contrary impact as compared to the image that was previously displayed. We can go there, one must also say, a green cloud doesn't look healthy either. But you know what I mean. And over a period of time, I believe you can separate the entire thing very effectively. Because, to be honest, why should we subject ourselves to dependency on positive or goal-oriented thinking in our lives by permitting ourselves to be influenced by negative thinking? But at some point we will go there and set something like an alarm clock, but the points are really small. And we no longer base our positive thinking on whether my negative and dramatic thinking brain encourages me to potentially have positive thoughts once again in the future. Remember, dramatic thinking is part of a healthy brain. He always wants to think negatively. If we let ourselves be controlled by our dramatic thinking brain, we become depressed. Our goal is to take control of our thoughts and thus control the negative and dramatic thinking brain ourselves. And our goal is to decouple ourselves from this negative thinking and, for example, set ourselves in an alarm clock to remind ourselves of our goals and our positive future prospects. Or we go there, make ourselves a plan of goals. What goals would you like to be available in our everyday life? In this sense, if an isolated symptom such as dizziness, isolated nausea, headache phenomena, abdominal pain without organic background, generally depression, panic disorder, specifically panic disorder, but also all other psychosomatic patterns of disorder, always take a look at the underlying basis. What actually happens in everyday life on the inner processing level? So what does someone see in their mind's eye? What thoughts does someone have on an auditory level? And to what extent can one perhaps infer a level from this? There is a whole lot where my mind used to escape, and today we are encouraged to finish these construction sites, to come up with solutions. Then a physical symptom like dizziness can also simply disappear over time.
Have you already seen my most important video for you? You will learn to understand your symptoms and find the path to change. Feel free to also watch this video here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to always stay informed about the latest posts.